Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for registering to our webinar. So you're listening to two colleagues today from the ICLEI World Secretariat in Bonn in Germany, and our mission is to inform potential applicants to the TAP about the project and the application process. So my name is Eilish. I'm Junior Officer within the World Secretariat Capacity Centre, and I'm supporting the TAP team with TAP mobilization, which means encouraging project submissions, and I'll also be working on the programme development for our TAP pavilion at COP21. So I'll be presenting this webinar today along with Atte Oksanen, who is Junior Officer for Advocacy and COP21, also in my team here at the ICLEI World Secretariat. So before we begin fully, Atte will just give a brief note on the technical support available to you during this webinar.
That's right. So welcome to everyone again, and thanks for participating. So my name is Atte, and I work with Eilish here at the ICLEI World Secretariat in the COP21 and the advocacy teams. And a little bit later on in the webinar, I'll be taking you through the application process, the application form, more specifically, and just to give you some basic information, some technical information about the webinar today. At the end of the webinar, we will be holding a Q&A session, a question and answer session. So if you have any questions that you would want to raise during that Q&A session, you can, during the webinar, raise your hand by clicking a hand-shaped button on your screen, which will indicate that you have a question to ask. You're currently unmuted, but if you click on this button at the end of the webinar during the Q&A session, we will unmute you so you can ask your question, or you can just type in your question in the questions box, and that will also indicate that you have a question, and we'll try to answer it during the Q&A session. Apart from that, yes, you will be unmuted during the webinar until the Q&A session. Okay, so everyone have a good webinar, and I'm handing it back to Eilish.
So thanks for that, Atte. So once again, we're very happy that you're here. This webinar will last approximately 1 hour, and it will consist of a 20 or 25-minute presentation, which will take you through the TAP, introducing and explaining firstly the concept of the TAP and what it means for ICLEI's work and strategy, the content of the TAP program, which we define around 4 pillars, and general information on the TAP application and selection process. So this means how we will select the TAP projects in the run-up to COP21 next December in Paris, including the timeline, the selection criteria, the application form, and the selection process. So following this introductory presentation, there's an opportunity for you to ask questions and answers in a question and answer session, where myself and Atte will answer any queries or respond to any comments you might have to share with us about the program. And just for you to note, as a complement to this webinar, we will send you afterwards a link to a presentation from our Head of Global Policy and Advocacy here at ICLEI, Mr. Yunus Arikan. And this presentation will give you some background info about the international climate negotiations process and COP21, which obviously is closely linked to our work on the TAP. So let's get going. So first of all, what is the TAP? So the TAP is a 10-year program. And the purpose of it is to accelerate the implementation of climate actions of local and subnational governments in the pre-2020 and post-2020 phases, while raising the level of ambition at all levels. So we want to raise the level of ambition for climate actions at the local, subnational, national, and international level. So more specifically, the TAP aims to improve access to existing capital flows to cities and regions, and to catalyze additional capital flows from both public and private investors or sources. So to give you some background info on the TAP has been developed as a response to previous attempts by local and subnational governments to push for a 10-year action program to be adopted within the UNFCCC framework. So this proposal was put forward in the framework of the Local Government Climate Roadmap in the Nantes Declaration in 2013. So in follow-up to this effort, now ICLEI and partners have launched the TAP outside of the UNFCCC process, while hoping that at some point in the future it will of course feed into this process. So moving on to the missions of the TAP has two separate but interrelated missions, one being political and one being the climate mission of the TAP. So the political mission of the TAP is supported by ICLEI's role as a key actor representing cities and local governments in the UNFCCC negotiations. And in this context, the TAP will advocate for better and quicker access to larger amounts of climate finance for cities and regions. Why? Because this is where climate change can be tackled effectively, and because we know that climate action at all levels is now completely urgent, given the challenges linked to climate change and increasing urbanization. So importantly, by engaging in the TAP and putting forward proposals of transformative action, local governments and networks of local governments will pursue and intensify their efforts to bridge the gap between negotiations and the implementation process. So this links us to the climate mission of the TAP. The TAP aims to mobilize cities and regions to design transformative and bankable climate actions. So it aims to assist with the pre-brokering between subnational authorities and financing bodies where possible. So before I continue, let me first clarify what ICLEI and partners can do for cities and regions through the TAP. So firstly, we can offer visibility to submitted projects both through the TAP Pavilion at COP21 and the online platform. We also offer the opportunity to engage directly with representatives of the financial and business sector who will be invited to the pavilion and brought together with applicants to discuss their projects and opportunities for further work. In terms of the application process, we offer assistance in filling in the form. So that means answering any questions you might have about the data we're trying to collect, the process that the form follows after submission, and also we provide feedback to enhance the quality of the application once it has been submitted. And in addition, our regional offices are supporting this work by providing translations. So for example, the form being available in French, in Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Korean, and mainland and traditional Chinese. So what we cannot do, however, is support applicants in gathering the necessary data. So applicants are expected to bring together the different information needed to answer the fields on the application form. So one important point to note is that the TAP does not guarantee the funding of applicant projects. So to repeat what I said earlier, our mission is to assist in the pre-brokering between local governments and financing institutions. So while we're keen to bring your projects to the attention of those actors who do in their day-to-day work fund these types of projects, we can't guarantee that it will be a success. So we're aiming at bringing the visibility and bringing the actors together to allow such pre-brokering. So a key bonus of the TAP is the fact that it's supported and backed by ICLEI's political role as the UNFCCC focal point for local and municipal authorities. So we represent, as ICLEI, local and subnationals, and we defend their interests within the UN negotiation process. And we're also involved in a variety of other climate-related activities and international fora. So this gives us a strong advantage as a facilitator of this pre-brokering process between cities and financing institutions. So just moving on now, as you can see here on this slide, there are different processes at work to achieve these two missions. So firstly, there's a process of mobilizing key actors at the local, national and international levels. And this webinar is part of that, so sharing information with key actors such as yourselves as cities or as international organizations or financing bodies, sharing information about what it is and how you can get involved. And in addition, there's a process of visibilization and showcasing the climate actions which are already being implemented and that are potential climate actions for the future. So this type of visibilization draws on existing tools we have, such as reporting platforms, for example, the Carbon Climate Registry, and our TAP own tools, for example, the TAP platform. So the TAP platform will be an online registry of climate ambition. And of course, we'll also have the TAP Pavilion, which will be a key mechanism of bringing visibilization to the projects. So the Pavilion will be a conference program delivered in the civil society space at COP21 in Paris. And in addition to showcasing the TAP projects, we'll also be showcasing a number of different thematic debates and bringing together different partners for bilaterals, workshops and meetings. So this will be a strong component of visibilizing the TAP. So the TAP will therefore guide our work with cities and regions over the next 5 to 10 years, and it will enable all ICLEI offices and partners to better connect their cities to funding opportunities. And it goes without saying that the TAP will contribute strongly to ICLEI's political agenda towards and beyond COP21, not least of which the fact that we've named our pavilion the Cities and Regions Pavilion TAP 2015. So it's a central way in which we are showcasing our positions and our activities at COP21. So moving on now again to the 4 action pillars of the TAP. So we've translated the objectives of the TAP into these specific action pillars. So the first, which you can see on the top left, is the TAP project pipeline. So what this means is that every year we will conduct a process whereby up to 100 TAP projects will be selected in the run-up to the annual UNFCCC COP and presented during the COP, starting this year at COP21 in Paris. So for those who may not be aware, the COP21 will be from the 30th of November to the 11th of December 2015, so essentially 2 weeks. So during this process, the project pipeline, cities and regions are first actively mobilized to apply to the TAP, and they are then supported in their application by ourselves, the TAP team in World Secretariat, and our regional offices. So our support goes to our targeted cities and regions where we've already identified transformative actions are in place, but of course we're also supporting people who contact us saying, yes, we're interested, we have an idea, we'd like to apply, and what can you do for us? So we're obviously very already involved in this process because the first TAP deadline was in May, and subsequently we had a deadline on the 15th of June and the 15th of July, and most recently a deadline on the 15th of August. So we've been in many intense contacts, one-to-one and in groups with cities. So this is very much underway. The TAP platform as the second pillar of action you can see on the top right. So before the COP, all projects submitted by cities and regions will be featured on an online platform in a structured and unified format. So what this means is we're going to centralize all of the TAP projects and make them visible on an online platform. And this will be one of the ways in which financing institutions, which we engage, will have access to the relevant info they need to consider financing or otherwise look towards further collaboration. So moving on to the TAP Pavilion, I've briefly mentioned it already, but this is the physical expression of the TAP program at the COP. So this will be the space where the selected TAP projects will be presented to national delegations, international donors, and financing agencies from both the public and private sector during the COP. And the first pavilion will be organized at COP21 in Paris, but we are planning to repeat this at subsequent COPs. So as we mentioned, the TAP is a 10-year program, so we hope to see the TAP represented at each COP going forward during this period. And moving on to the fourth quadrant, or the fourth action pillar of the TAP, we have the TAP advocacy for accelerated climate action. So this builds on our previous work in local climate advocacy, led by Mr. Yunus Arakan, who I mentioned briefly at the start of the webinar. But the TAP pipeline will diversify and strengthen this advocacy in various ways. So firstly, it's going to increase awareness of the potential of transformative subnational climate action by showcasing success stories via our applicants' submissions. It will also deepen the dialogue with national governments and promote effective vertical integration between different levels of government. It will reinforce the engagement with international and national funding bodies and development agencies linked to the mission of the city's Climate Finance Leadership Alliance. And it will continue the coordination of information sharing and debate on local and subnational climate finance in the realm of international climate negotiations and related fora. So these related events would be UNSCCC ADP negotiations, activities within the scope of the post-2015 development agenda, and active engagement in the third International Conference on Financing for Development, which will be held in July 2016. In a nutshell, the TAP advocacy work will create an essential interaction nexus with all levels of government and engage with financing bodies. So I just point out to you now before I move on, again, if you have any questions from anything I say as we're presenting, feel free to send us your questions, but we will of course give you an opportunity to send them at the end before the question and answer session. So moving on to the TAP 2015 application and selection process. So what you're looking at now is the timeline that we're working with. So basically our timeline is May to December 2015 for the 2015 phase of the TAP project. So our applications opened in early May, and we've now facilitated a number of webinars for potential applicants, and this goes in hand with the application forms which we've made available. So basically we have an offline form and an online form, and these forms are available in several languages so that we can mobilize a wide panel of projects throughout the world, you know, breaking down the barriers of language. So English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Korean, Mandarin and Japanese. So we're greatly supported by our ICLEI regional offices in the development of these multilingual resources. So in terms of our deadlines, the next and final deadline for submitting a TAP project is the 15th of September. So as I mentioned already, we've had several deadlines, and the reason we did a multi-deadline approach was to encourage people to get their projects in as early as possible, because since May we've been supporting applicants by going through their drafts and providing brief feedback on their TAP project to increase the value of their submission and enhance the possibility that they will be selected. So in June and July, we began reaching out to partners to appoint a member for this TAP selection panel / committee, and also to appoint an expert to the expert committee. So we'll speak a bit about this later on, but just so you know that this is part of our work behind the scenes in addition to the more open work such as this webinar and trying to encourage applications. So basically our selection process from all of our applicants will kick off completely on the 15th of September once we have all of the projects in. So in October we will be notifying successful applicants, and our online platform will then be activated in the run-up to the COP. So again, by October, people who are successful will be informed, and all of the successful projects will be visible online. And then obviously the milestone event for the TAP 2015 phase is COP21, where we will be presenting up to 100 projects in the pavilion in Paris. So what is a TAP project? This, I guess, is a very key question. Well, how do we define a TAP project? We refer to two different types of TAP projects, and you can see them outlined on the slide in front of you. So we have fast-track transformers and post-2020 transformers. So they differ by means of the stage in which the project has reached. It might be fully designed with a clear budget and action plan and management structure, or it might just be a project in which only a concept is now known and there's more work to be done in terms of defining how it will be implemented. So the TAP allows for both types of projects, and we also allow for different types of projects in terms of the sectors that would be engaged. So the needs identified in terms of enabling the implementation of the project can also differ. So this might mean that only funding is needed, or perhaps the project is more interested in attracting visibility, or perhaps it's a combination of both. But yeah, basically there are different types of project, and these can fit into the pre-2020 if they're ready to be implemented, or post-2020 if it's more of a long-term transformer. So we've been receiving applications of both types, and there's a wide variety of different projects coming in. So we encourage you to exchange with us on your project idea so that we can discuss it and to come to some kind of agreement together on whether you're profiling this in the most attractive way to be of interest to our selection panel. So in terms of our criteria for the overall selection and distribution of the up to 100 TAP projects, there are 5 criteria that we take into account. So first of all, we try to judge the level of the transformative potential, which I'll speak about in the next slide. We also look into regional balance, so we want to ensure that the projects we will select will be fairly equally distributed between global north and south. We'd like to feature a balance of mitigation and adaptation projects, but bear in mind that some TAP projects would combine both, which of course is a plus because it demonstrates a more integrated approach of both mitigation and adaptation, which we support. A further criteria for our selection is sectorial balance. So as I mentioned, we've been receiving and we're encouraging projects from across the different sectors. So this could mean transport, energy, biodiversity, housing, behavioral change. There's many different sectors that could be the basis of a transformation in your city or region. And finally, transparency. So we're looking to see how transparent the applications are in describing, you know, well, what is being done well in our proposed TAP, what aspects might we have missed out on, how informed are the applications in terms of the information that you're making available to us. So all of these things are a big plus when it comes to the selection committee making the decision about which projects will ultimately be successful. So moving on now to how we define the transformative potential of projects. So this is a very frequent question that we have. What do we mean by transformation? Because this is obviously, it can be quite a general term. So for the purpose of our work, we define transformation as a project having the potential to transform society by responding to 3 criteria, which are ambitious, cross-cutting, and inclusive. So these 3 components are captured in the table that you're looking at now. So in terms of ambition, an ambitious project is one that could be, for example, the first time such a thing has been implemented in this jurisdiction, and one that will benefit a large proportion of the population. It could also be an existing project which is now being scaled up to benefit an even larger portion of the population, or scaled up to include different departments or different criteria, or any other way that you could argue you're scaling up your project. We would consider this under the headline ambition. So moving into cross-cutting, we're looking at how the transformative project will affect people, place, and planet. So what this means is how different communities will benefit, how different resources will benefit in terms of the management. So this might mean the management of energy, air quality, land use, or procurement, and how the project contributes to other subnational, national and global sustainability goals. So this feeds into, again, our emphasis on vertical integration. We want to see that your project is being designed and nested within a vertically cohesive chain of goals. So we want to see that your TAP fits into what the city is trying to achieve within a region, within a nation, and within our global sustainability goals. So just so you know, when we speak of global sustainability goals, we generally refer to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal process, and these SDGs, as they're known, are available online on the internet if you want to see more about what we mean by those. And moving on to the third criteria, inclusive, what this means is that the project would encourage cross-departmental coordination for effective implementation. So we want to see that the department that might be chiefly responsible for the TAP is coordinating with colleagues across the local government to ensure that a coordinated approach is being handled. And in addition, we want to see that citizens and local stakeholders are being actively engaged wherever possible. And we want to see also if the private sector can be engaged. So it's very much a multi-sectoral inclusive approach that we would like to see demonstrated for us to say, yes, this is really a transformative project and we're happy to recommend this to our selection panel. So that's a brief overview of how we define transformation. And now we're going to move into the TAP application form. So my colleague Atte, who you met at the beginning of the webinar and who gave the technical intro, will now tell you a bit more about the process and talk you through the application form and its submission.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eilish. So, as she said, I'll take you through the application process. So, first, I'll take you through the website a little bit, because to apply, you will need to go to our website, tap-potential.org. You would need to go to the apply page right here. So, the website is already available in 4 different languages, so in English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese. The application form itself, as you'll see here, is available in a couple of more languages, in French, Korean, Mandarin, Portuguese, Spanish. We'll also have Japanese there quite soon. So as you can see, the applicant can choose to apply either through the offline application form, which is right here, or through the online system. Now the content is the same between these two systems. The difference is that if you're already reporting to the Carbon Climate Registry, you may prefer to use the online form. So to access the online form, you would click there and go here, because you can use the same login details, and as some of the content is common between the CCR and the TAP forms, for instance, the contact details, some of the data in the application in the applicant profile, the climate commitments. Well, this information is already entered into the CCR platform and will be pre-populated in your TAP application form, which can save you some time and resources. Now, for applicants who are not reporting to the CCR, which is the world's leading reporting platform for local and subnational governments, you can decide to register at the same time as you are applying to the TAP. This will enhance the transparency of your commitments and, of course, improve the quality of your application in a sense, and it's a good opportunity to show your climate commitments and leadership. Now, either you can register on the online form, as I showed you here, and you will be able to register and you will be given login credentials to fill in your application, or if you prefer the offline form, you will be able to indicate if you like to report to Carbon at the same time. Now, to download the offline application form, which we'll be looking at for practical purposes, it's a 2-step process basically. First, the applicant downloads the form right here or in one of these other languages over here, and once the form is completely filled out with the project details, it should the applicant should go to step 2 right here, fill in some basic information, and submit it to us by clicking on this button right here, the Choose File button. Now you'll see, and I'll show you later on, that along with your application you will also be required to attach some supporting documents, such as the logo of your local government, greenhouse gas inventory, etc. Now these can be attached to your application in 3 different ways. Either you do it right here by clicking on this button here, the second Choose File button, and you send us these supporting documents in a compressed zip archive, so you can do that right here, or as an attachment to an email that you send to us. I'll show you the email address a little bit later, or through the online application system. Once you've submitted your offline form and received login credentials to access the online version of your application. Because offline applications that are submitted via this website will also be uploaded onto the online application system. So applicants who choose the offline option will also be given login credentials to access and edit their application later on via the online system. But of course, only the TAP team and the applicant will have access to the submitted information, so there's no need to worry there. All right, so now that I've showed you this 2-step process to submit the application, we can move on to the application form itself. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the time to go through all of the fields, as you will see that there's quite a large number of them, but I will take you through the main sections. And I'd like to also take this opportunity to point out that although the form may seem a little lengthy, it has been diligently designed to minimize the workload of applicants while still trying to capture the most detailed and comprehensive information on your projects, the type of important information that would interest potential financiers and financial institutions. So this form is composed of 6 different sheets. You have the first one right here, that is the README sheet with instructions for the applicant that the applicant should definitely read carefully before starting the application process. It contains some information about the application form itself. The fact that the green tabs right here are the mandatory tabs. The only non-mandatory tab is the last one, the 5th one, the applicant commitments one, so that's in blue. You'll see later on in the form that some fields are marked with an asterisk, and so these are required mandatory fields. Some fields have drop-down menus where you can just choose an option, like right here. And then there are some fields where you simply have to type in your information, so these are manual entries. You'll see also that some fields, such as these ones right here, are in italics, and these are there to collect complementary information. So they're not mandatory, but will definitely enhance the value of your application. The more detail, the better. All right, so this is the README sheet. Also, just to add, there are some extra information here about how to submit your supporting documents. So as I said, there are 3 different ways: either through a zip archive together with your application form on the website, or as an attachment to this email address, or online once you've received your login details. And also, just to point out that in this application form, when we ask you to provide supporting documents, like in these fields right here, we ask you to please write the file name. So you would simply write the name of your file here and then attach it later on by one of the 3 ways that I indicated earlier. And the files should be in PDF format for the text files, or one of the typical image formats, of course, for images, such as your logo. Okay, so I think now we can move on to the next tab, which is the registration tab. So here we ask for some basic information about the applicant, contact point within your local government, political liaison within who works with your head of government. And then towards the end here, our terms and conditions. So here we ask, our only real condition here is that you allow for the information that you provide in the next tab that I'll show you right now, the tab overview tab, to be made public on our online platform that Eilish talked about earlier. And also, this is where you can indicate if you would like to register to the Carbon Climate Registry. So the tab overview tab. So this is what we like to call the most important tab in the form, because it tries to capture the transformative potential of your project, indicating how the project fits the three criteria that Eilish mentioned earlier. So this tab will help with the selection process, especially in the first screening of the submitted projects. And so, as I indicated, we ask you to allow us to make the information that you provide in this tab public on our tab online platform that Eilish talked about as well, that will be up and running by the end of October. So in this tab, you also have some drop-down menus where you can just choose an option, such as here, or tabs where you simply type in your information. Now, we recommend that you really here try to tell the story of your project. What is transformative in one city or region will not be transformative in another city or region. So it's important to show how your project is transformative within your local context. And this is also what we'll be taking into account during the selection process, as we will try to understand the specific conditions of each applicant. Now, moving on to the applicant profile. So here we ask you to provide some background and some contextual information about the applicant local government. So there's some geopolitical information here, socioeconomic information. We ask you also to provide us information about your local government's climate ambitions. There's some sectorial information here that we invite the applicant to fill in for the sectors that are relevant to their government or to their project. Now, the project profile. This sheet contains some core and detailed information about the project itself, its concept, the management structure of the project, and more detailed information on the transformative potential of the project. So we'll be looking at the co-benefits of transformation, as you can see here, in terms of sustainability. And here also the applicant only fills in the applicable fields that are relevant to the project. For instance, if it's a mitigation project, then you will fill in the mitigation related fields, and if it's an adaptation project, so on. We ask you to provide also information, and this is very important, about the financial and technical feasibility of your project. Now, this is, of course, again, something that will interest the financial institutions that will be looking at the projects. And this is typically a sheet where we will be asking you to provide some supporting documents. Some of them are mandatory, so there are some asterisks right here. And as I said, we would ask you to write the file name of the document in the application form. Now, if for some reason you cannot provide the mandatory data, we ask you to attach a note to your application, just basically outlining the reasons why you cannot do so for the selection panel to better understand your context. Now, moving on just to the last tab, the applicant commitments tab. Now, as I said, this tab is in blue, so it's the only non-mandatory tab in the application form. So if the local government council has decided on specific climate targets, either mitigation or adaptation, the applicant can report them in the sheet in order to show how the submitted project can help reach these targets, or to show how the commitment itself can be transformative. So if you choose the offline form as indicated, once you've completed the form, you would go to the website and follow the two-step process that I showed you earlier on the website, and attach the supporting documents in the 3 ways that I indicated earlier. Now, I think that's pretty much it for me. I'll hand it over briefly to Eilish before we head to the Q&A session.
So I'm answering if it's possible to apply with more than once with separate project proposals. So the answer is yes. We have applicants who are applying with several. The reason being that they have multiple projects at work in their territory which they feel are potential TAP projects, and we fully encourage this. And we generally say that up to 4 would be a reasonable amount. So we've had applicants submitting up to 4 applications. So I hope this answers your question.
Great. Yeah, that was my main question. We have, several potential projects kind of in the pipeline that we're looking into, and I wanted to know how much I needed to narrow it down or choose the one to apply, or could I really put together basically what you said, 3 or 4 different proposals and submit that way?
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's great. You definitely can. And so are these projects all involve local or subnational governments, I'm guessing?
Yeah, we're just a municipality.
Okay, that's great. All right. Great.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much, Joanna.
Atte, I would just add, for anyone who's considering to make an application to the TAP program, we'd encourage you to go through the TAP overview form, which is tab number 2 in what Atte showed you earlier when he was going through the form. And we'd encourage you to just think about your project in terms of these questions. Do you find it easy to answer the questions on this form? If so, it's generally a good sign that your project is matching closely how we define a transformative action. If not, feel free to share it with us. We were thinking about making this application, however, we're not sure that we can answer X, Y, Z criteria. What's your opinion on this? Do you think that this would make a good application? So this is some of the type of support we've been exchanging one-on-one with cities. So just so you know that this service is available, and that you can contact us at tap@iclei.org with this type of question, and we'd be happy to exchange over email or even a short call, whatever helps you the most in moving the process forward.
Thanks, Eilish. There seems to be a hand raised by Mamad Ahmad.
I'm Mamad from Mozambique.
Nice
Hello.
to meet you. Hi.
Thank you. And I'm representing the municipality of Nacala, Porto.
Okay.
And we have been attending the last ICLEI forum in Bonn. Thanks for a program called GREASE from USAID. But now we are interested in applying for TAP.
That's great.
Yes. And but I have 2 questions. The first one is about the deadline. You say that the deadline was 15th of August. But and no application will be accepted after 15th of September. So what do that mean? You mean that we can still have opportunity to send an application or something like that?
Yes, you can definitely still apply to the TAP. So 15th of August deadline was there to indicate to our potential applicants that if you send in the application form early on in the process, you'll have more of an opportunity to discuss with us. You'll get more feedback from the TAP team here at the ICLEI World Secretariat. So if you send it in a bit later in the process, then you'll have you won't have that kind of feedback anymore, but you will definitely still be able to apply to the TAP until the 15th of September. That is not a problem. Yeah.
The second question is that we have managed to develop an action plan, a climate action plan. Mm-hmm. And that plan, we have described for three focus area, no? So I would like to share with you and seek for opportunities to find some partners for us. And that action plan, there are no budgets, but we have the idea.
Your application would be then an action plan and not a project with a budget, but that's not a problem in terms of the TAP application process. You can definitely submit an action plan. It can be at a very early phase. That is not a problem. You could, if you think that the action plan will be implemented only after 2020, you can categorize it as a post-2020 delivery plan, and then of course within our application form we do request some financial information, but if this is not applicable to your project, then of course then that shouldn't be a problem in terms of the application process.
I would also add one thing. So just to remind you that our slogan for the TAP program is to tap the potential of climate action. So when you say that you have a 3-point action plan, but you don't yet have the partners or the funds in place to implement it, for example, this is one of the things we are trying to showcase. We want to showcase the ambition of local and subnational governments. So this is an opportunity for you to say, yes, we've put in the think work, we've analyzed our situation, this is what we think is needed in order to transform our jurisdiction, and while we are now seeking partners to make that happen, and we would like to have the attention of different financing institutions who might find this interesting, the TAP allows you that opportunity by providing the platform online to give visibility to your project, and also, if successful, potentially the opportunity to join us at COP21 at our pavilion to have these exchanges with relevant financing bodies. So part of what we would do at the pavilion is bring our TAP projects together with relevant financing institutions, and by relevant I mean relevant for the region of the world that your project is based in, or relevant to the sector of the project that you're applying with. So for example, an Asian project, we would try to bring together relevant Asian institutions, be it, for example, the Asian Development Bank, for example. So we absolutely would welcome projects of this type that showcase the ambition, even if some of the final pieces of the puzzle have not yet come together, because this is what we're trying to assist with.